Good day everyone. Today our group will be presenting the case of young V. Grote 1827, which is one of the earliest and most influential English cases about negligence and material alteration in negotiable instrument. This case is very important because it discusses who should be responsible when a check is changed or forked, the customers who issue it or the bank that paid it. In this case, the court examined how the drawer's negligence, meaning the person who writes the check, can make them responsible for loss caused by fraudulent alterations. The case also highlights the importance of being careful when preparing check and other negotiable instruments. Even though this case happened a long time ago, its principle is still relevant today, especially in Malaysia, under the Bills of Exchange Act 1949. It continues to guide how banks and customers share responsibility in preventing check fraud. Slide number 2, case background. Let's begin with the facts. Mr. Young was a customer at Mr. Grote's bank. He asked his clerk to fill in a check but left blank space on it, intending for his clerk to complete the amount later. However, his clerk fraudulently altered the check to a larger amount and presented it to the bank. The bank, acting in good faith, paid the altered check when the fraud was discovered. Mr. Young blamed the bank and demanded repayment, but the bank refused, arguing that Mr. Young's own negligence in leaving blank space made the fraud possible. This dispute raised a key question: who should pay the loss when the check is fraudulently altered due to the negligence? In this case, the plaintiff, Mr. Young, was a customer of Mrs. Grote, who were his bankers. Mr. Young gave his clerk a signed check, but he left it partly blank. He told his clerk to fill in the amount of £2 and use it to pay a tradesman. However, Mr. Young left too much empty space on the check, both in words and numbers. Because of this, the dishonest clerk was able to add the word 100 after 2 and change the number £2 to £200. The check then appeared to be £200 instead of £2. The bank, not realizing it was altered, paid the full £200 in good faith. Later, when Mr. Young found out what happened, he sued the bank to recover the money, arguing that the bank had no authority to pay more than £2. The case then went to court to determine who should pay the loss, the bank or Mr. Young. In slide number 3, legal issue. The main legal question before the court was who was legally responsible for the loss caused by the fraudulent alteration. There were two specific issues that the judge had to consider. First, whether the check became void after it was altered by the clerk, and second, whether Mr. Young's negligence in leaving the check blank made him responsible for the loss instead of the bank. Essentially, the court needed to decide if the fraud was possible because of the way Mr. Young prepared the check. This case also raised an important point about duty of care, whether a person who signs the check must take extra precaution to make sure it cannot be easily changed. So the question was not only about the fraud itself, but also about who created the opportunity for that fraud to happen.
Good day, my name is Rana Annabelle. So today I will be presenting the slide number 5, which is the court decision where the court ruled in favor of the bank. The reason Mr. Young's negligence in leaving blank spaces allowed the alteration. Chief Justice Best, where drawer must take care to prevent fraud, and Mr. Young's carelessness was the proximate cause of the loss. So in the court's decision, where the court ruled in favor of the bank, where Chief Justice Best stated that Mr. Young's negligence causes the fraud. By leaving blank spaces on the check, he made it possible for the alteration to occur, and also therefore the loss was his responsibility, not the bank's. They established legal principles where a customer must take reasonable care when issuing check. And also, this leads us to the key legal principles that were established from this case. Slide number 6, the legal principle established. If a customer negligence enables fraud, the customer bears the loss. Duty of care withdrawers must ensure check can be easily altered. Forms the basis of modern rules under Bills of Exchange Act 1949 Malaysia, Section 64, where the material alteration renders a bill void, all parties consent. So for the slide number 6 explanation where the legal principles established, this case introduced a major legal principles. If a customer's negligence enables fraud, the customer bears the loss. It also reinforced the duty of care that check drawers must take. This principle is now reflected under the Bills of Exchange Act 1949 Malaysia, particularly Section 64, which state that any material alteration renders a bill void unless all parties are consent. So to understand this better, let's compare it with another similar cases. Okay, for the slide number 7, which is the comparative case analysis, where the London Joint Stock Bank Vic Macmillan and others in 1918, bank not liable, customers negligence caused the fraud. Schofield v. Earl of London's Borough, 1896, where they altered bill void unless consented by all parties. Young v. Grote focuses on negligence, Schofield focuses on validity. While in together, they form the foundation of modern check law. In London Joint Stock Bank v. Macmillan and Arthur, in 1918, the bank was also not liable because the customer's negligence enabled the fraud. In Schofield v. Earl of London's Borough, 1896, the court rules that an altered bill is void unless consented by all parties. Together with Young v. Grote, the cases build the foundation for modern check law, where they're focusing both on negligence and the validity of altered instruments. So how does this apply in Malaysia today? Okay, the relevance in Malaysian law, where it's reflected in Section 64, Bills of Exchange Act 1949 in Malaysia, where Malaysian courts still refer to Young v. Grote when determining negligence of check drawers and also assessing liability for altered or fraudulent check. So which means in slide 8, what can I get is that the Young v. Grote principle is clearly seen in Section 64 of Malaysian Bills of Exchange Act 1949, where Malaysian courts continue to refer to this case when determining negligence in check fraud cases. Okay, so in slide 9, to conclude all of the cases study that me and my partner are doing is that Young v. Grote in 1827 remains a landmark decision in banking law. It teaches us that negligence by a drawer can shift liability for check fraud. Both customers and banks must exercise due care to prevent losses. This case still influences Malaysian and Commonwealth banking law today. Thank you very much for listening.